The sun had begun to set over the quiet suburban neighborhood, casting long shadows across the empty streets. 8-year-old Emily walked home from the park, her golden retriever, Max, trotting faithfully beside her. Max wasn't just any dog. He was a retired K-9 trained for police operations, a fact very few people knew. Emily's father had served in the K-9 unit and, after Max was deemed too old for active duty, he had adopted him, knowing the dog still had sharp instincts and unwavering loyalty. Emily loved Max. To her, he was just her best friend, her protector, and the one she confided in about her little childhood worries. She felt safe with him, and tonight was no different as they made their way home. But as they turned a corner, something felt off. The street was too quiet. A group of bikers had gathered near the entrance of an abandoned lot, their motorcycles parked haphazardly. Loud laughter echoed through the night, and Emily instinctively tightened her grip on Max's leash. One of the bikers, a burly man with a jagged scar running down his cheek, noticed her first. He nudged his companions and pointed in her direction. Well, what do we have here? A little girl all alone, he sneered. Emily took a step back, her heart pounding. She knew she had to keep walking, not show fear, but as she tried to pass, one of the men stepped in her way. Hey, where you going in such a hurry? He said, his breath reeking of alcohol. Max let out a low, warning growl. The men laughed. Oh, look, the pup thinks he's tough, another biker mocked. Emily's hands trembled, but she spoke firmly. Please let me go. Scarface chuckled. Now, we just want to talk. His tone was anything but friendly. Another biker reached out, grabbing Emily's arm. That was the moment everything changed. Max exploded into action. With lightning speed, he lunged at the man gripping Emily, his powerful jaws clamping onto the biker's forearm. The man screamed in agony as Max twisted his body, yanking him to the ground. A panic erupted among the group. The bikers scrambled, trying to pull their friend away, but Max was relentless. His training kicked in, his bites precise and devastating. Get the dog off him, one of the men shouted, reaching for a knife. But Max was faster. He released the first man and leapt at the second, knocking him down with surprising force. The biker yelped as Max pinned him, his sharp teeth inches from his throat. Scarface backed away, pulling a pistol from his jacket. You little brat, call your dog off, or I'll shoot him. Emily stood her ground. Max, attack, she shouted, her voice filled with an authority she didn't even know she had. Max reacted instantly, charging at Scarface. The man barely had time to aim before Max sank his teeth into his wrist, forcing him to drop the gun. The weapon clattered to the pavement as Scarface screamed. Blood trickled from his arm as Max held firm. The remaining bikers realized they were outmatched. Screw this, let's get out of here, one of them yelled. They scrambled onto their motorcycles, revving the engines in a desperate attempt to flee. The man with the bitten arm managed to shake free and stumbled after them, clutching his wounds. Scarface was the last to retreat, glaring at Emily with pure hatred. You'll regret this, kid, he spat before limping toward his bike. But before he could escape, sirens blared in the distance. Red and blue lights illuminated the night. The police arrived within seconds, officers pouring out of their cars, guns drawn. Hands in the air, one of them commanded. The bikers, now surrounded, had no choice but to surrender. Emily's father was among the officers. His heart nearly stopped when he saw his daughter standing in the middle of the chaos. Emily, he ran to her, pulling her into a tight embrace. Are you okay? Tears welled in her eyes, but she nodded. Max saved me, Daddy. Her father looked at the golden retriever, still standing protectively in front of Emily, his fur bristling, his eyes locked on the criminals. A wave of pride washed over him. Good boy, Max, he murmured, kneeling to pat the dog's head. The police rounded up the bikers, handcuffing them one by one. As Scarface was shoved into the back of a squad car, he locked eyes with Emily. But this time, it wasn't hatred, it was pure fear. Emily looked down at Max, who wagged his tail, licking her hand as if nothing had happened. She smiled, stroking his fur. Let's go home, buddy. As the police arrested the last of the bikers, Emily clung to her father's side, feeling both relieved and exhausted. The night had turned into something out of a nightmare, but Max had been there for her, just like he always was. The golden retriever sat calmly beside her now, his fur slightly ruffled, his ears perked up as if he was still on high alert. "Are you sure you're okay, sweetheart?" her father asked again, his voice softer now. Emily nodded. "I was scared, but Max didn't let anything happen to me." Her father's fellow officers murmured amongst themselves, impressed by the dog's instincts and training. "That's one hell of a dog," one officer remarked. Another officer, Sergeant Harris, stepped forward. He had worked with Max back in the K-9 unit and knew just how capable the dog was. "It doesn't surprise me. Max was one of the best." He knelt down, scratching behind the retriever's ears. "You saved her life tonight, buddy." Max gave a small wag of his tail, but his eyes remained focused on the bikers being shoved into the police cruisers. Even though they were in cuffs, he wasn't ready to let his guard down yet. Emily's father stood up, his face hardening as he watched the criminals. "I want their records checked. Something tells me this isn't the first time they've done something like this." Scarface, still holding his wounded wrist, sneered. "You think this is over, officer? You're making a big mistake." Emily's father walked up to him, his expression cold. "No, the only mistake was thinking you could hurt my daughter and get away with it." Scarface glared but said nothing. The officers loaded the last of the bikers into their vehicles, and within minutes, they were gone, leaving the street quiet once more. But something about Scarface's threat stuck with Emily. Even after the danger had passed, she couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't the end of it. That night, back at home, Emily sat on the couch with Max curled up beside her. Her father had called her mother, who had rushed home from work the moment she heard what had happened. She hugged Emily tightly, kissing her forehead over and over. "I can't believe this," her mother whispered. "What if something had happened to you?" Emily hugged her back. "I wasn't alone, Mom. Max was with me." Her mother looked down at the dog, eyes filled with gratitude. "He's more than just a pet. He's a hero." Max let out a small bark as if agreeing. Her father sat down across from them, rubbing a hand down his face. "The police are running background checks on those bikers. They weren't just a random gang. There's something bigger going on. They might be tied to a criminal network we've been trying to track for months." Emily's mother gasped. "You think they'll come back?" Her father's jaw tightened. "I don't know, but I'm not taking any chances. From now on, we're being extra careful." Emily swallowed hard. She wanted to believe that everything was over, that the bad guys were locked away for good. But deep down, she had a sinking feeling that it wasn't that simple. Days passed. The incident made the local news, with headlines praising Max as a hero dog saves young girl from violent attack. The police department even issued a special commendation for him. Emily was proud of her furry protector, but the uneasy feeling in her gut never went away. Then, one evening, as Emily and Max played in the backyard, something strange happened. Max suddenly stopped mid-run, his ears shooting up. His body tensed, and he let out a low, warning growl. Emily froze. "What is it, Max?" She followed his gaze toward the fence, where something small and metallic glinted in the grass. Slowly, she approached and gasped when she saw what it was: a knife. Her hands shook as she backed away. Someone had been here. Someone had dropped this on purpose. She ran inside, calling for her father. Within minutes, he was outside, scanning the yard with a flashlight. His face darkened when he saw the knife. "This isn't random," he muttered. "They were here." Emily's mother covered her mouth in horror. "But how?" "The police said they were in custody." Her father didn't answer right away. He was already dialing his phone. "Harris, we've got a problem," he said grimly. "I think those guys had friends." That night, her father didn't sleep. He stayed up, checking the security cameras and keeping his gun within reach. Emily lay in bed, Max curled up beside her, but she couldn't relax. Every little noise made her jump. Sometime after midnight, Max's ears perked up again. He lifted his head, sniffing the air. Then he growled. A deep, menacing sound that made Emily's blood run cold. She sat up. What is it? A sudden, loud bang echoed from outside. Her father was up in an instant, grabbing his gun. Stay here, he told Emily and her mother before rushing to the front door. Max wouldn't stay put, though. The moment Emily moved to follow her father, the dog leaped off the bed, ready to protect his family once more. Through the window, Emily saw shadows moving near their fence. Figures, too many to count, lurking in the darkness. Her breath hitched. They had come back. And this time, they weren't just looking for trouble. Emily's heart pounded as she peered out the window, her fingers gripping the curtain. The shadows moved quickly, creeping along the fence line, their figures blending with the darkness. Max's growl grew deeper, more threatening. He knew they weren't alone. Her father stood by the door, gun drawn, his eyes sharp as he scanned the front yard. Emily, stay with your mother. Don't move, he ordered, his voice low and firm. But Emily couldn't look away. Her stomach twisted into knots as she realized that these men weren't just passing by. They were here for them. A sudden metallic clank echoed outside. Then another. Someone was cutting through the fence. Max barked loudly, his body tense, his muscles coiled like a spring. He was ready. Damn it, her father muttered. He rushed to the security monitor on the wall, flipping through the camera feeds. His face darkened. There are at least 5 of them. Emily's mother gasped, clutching her daughter protectively. Are they the same bikers? No, her father said grimly. New ones. But they're definitely connected. A voice called from the darkness outside. Come on out, Officer Carter. We know you're in there. The voice was deep, taunting. We just want to have a little chat. Emily's father clenched his jaw. He knew what that meant. This wasn't a conversation. This was a threat. A warning. Max barked again, louder this time, making it clear he was ready to fight. The men outside chuckled. Oh, that's cute. You think your little pet's gonna stop us? Emily's father narrowed his eyes. They don't know, do they? He muttered. They don't know, Max, Emily whispered. Her father turned to them. Get to the panic room. Now. Emily shook her head. No. I'm not leaving you. Emily, please, her mother begged. Before anyone could argue further, a loud crack shattered the silence. The sound of splintering wood rang through the house. They were breaking in. Her father reacted instantly, raising his gun. Go! Max was already ahead of them. He bolted toward the broken door, his instincts kicking in. His growl turned into a full-blown snarl as he lunged forward, disappearing into the darkness of the hallway. Emily and her mother barely made it to the reinforced panic room in the basement when they heard the first scream. A man's voice, high-pitched, panicked. What the hell? Get it off me. Another scream. Then a loud thud. Emily's mother pulled her into the small room, locking the heavy steel door behind them. The room was stocked with supplies, a radio, and a backup monitor that connected to the security cameras. Emily's father had built it years ago, hoping they would never have to use it. But now, as Emily watched the screen, she saw the chaos unfolding in real time. Max was a blur of golden fur, moving like a ghost between shadows. One of the intruders lay on the ground, clutching his bleeding arm, screaming in pain. Another man backed away, shaking, his knife useless against the trained K9. Shoot it, someone shouted. But Max was too fast. Before the man could raise his gun, Max lunged, biting down on his wrist with brutal force. The gun clattered to the floor as the man howled in agony. Emily's father took advantage of the distraction. He moved with expert precision, firing 2 warning shots. Get the hell out of my house, he bellowed. The remaining intruders hesitated. One tried to reach for the fallen gun, but Max snarled, stepping closer, his eyes locked onto him. Then came the sirens. Red and blue lights flashed through the windows. The police had arrived. The men panicked. We gotta go. But it was too late. Officers stormed the property, weapons drawn. The intruders had no choice but to surrender. Emily's father stepped forward, keeping his gun trained on the nearest man. I warned you, he said coldly. One by one, The intruders were handcuffed and dragged away. The officers checked the house, making sure the threat was gone before calling out, "All clear." Emily's mother unlocked the panic room, pulling her daughter into a tight embrace. "It's over," she whispered. Emily's father knelt beside Max, rubbing his head. "You did good, boy." Max wagged his tail, licking his master's hand as if to say, "Just doing my job." But as Emily looked at the men being taken away, she saw something that sent a chill down her spine. One of them, bruised, bleeding, defeated, looked right at her.
And he smiled.
A slow, knowing grin. A silent promise. This wasn't over. And deep down, Emily knew it. The house was finally quiet. The flashing police lights outside faded as the last of the intruders were taken away, but the weight of what had just happened still hung heavy in the air. Emily sat on the couch, her fingers gently running through Max's fur. The golden retriever had finally relaxed, his tail thumping lightly against the floor, but his ears were still alert. Her father paced the living room, his jaw clenched. "This isn't just some random attack," he muttered. "They're organized. They knew exactly where to hit, exactly when." Emily's mother rubbed her arms, trying to shake off the cold dread in her chest. But the police took them away. "It's over, isn't it?" Her father stopped pacing. He exhaled sharply, shaking his head.
"Not yet."
That man, Scarface, the leader from the first attack.
He's still out there.
And now, they know we won't go down easily. Emily shivered. She could still see the smirk on the face of the last intruder as he was led away. A promise. A warning. Max let out a low growl, his nose twitching. A knock at the door made everyone jump. Emily's father raised his gun before cautiously approaching. "Who is it?" "Sergeant Harris," a familiar voice responded. Her father opened the door, letting in the uniformed officer. Harris stepped inside, glancing around the room, his face grim. "We've got a problem." Emily's father motioned for him to sit. "Talk to me." Harris sighed. "We ran their names through our system. These guys aren't just some street gang. They're part of a larger syndicate. We've been tracking them for months, but this is the first time they've made a move like this." Emily's mother sat down, her hands trembling. "Why us?" Harris hesitated. Then he looked at Emily's father. "Because of you." A heavy silence filled the room. "What do you mean?" Emily's father asked, his voice dangerously calm. Harris glanced at Emily, then back at her parents. "You used to work narcotics before you transferred to the K-9 unit. Do you remember a raid about 6 years ago? A big drug bust downtown?" Emily's father narrowed his eyes.
"Yeah.
We took down a major supplier. Cartel connections. It was one of the biggest busts of my career." Harris nodded. "That supplier? He wasn't just some middleman. He was a high-ranking member of this syndicate. He went to prison because of that raid." Emily's mother inhaled sharply. "Oh my God." Harris continued. "His name was Victor Santiago. He had a brother, Carlos Santiago. And Carlos never forgot who put his brother away." Emily's father swore under his breath. "And now he's coming for me." "Not just you," Harris said grimly. "Your family." Emily's stomach twisted. Her father clenched his fists. "What do we do?" Harris leaned forward. "We can put you into protective custody, at least until we take these guys down." "No," her father said firmly. "I'm not running." Emily's mother looked at him in horror. "You can't be serious. We need to go somewhere safe." Her father shook his head. "If we run, we'll be looking over our shoulders for the rest of our lives. We need to end this." Harris sighed. "I figured you'd say that. That's why I had my team reinforce your security system. We're also assigning an undercover unit to keep watch on your house. But be ready. They will come back." Emily swallowed hard. "Then we'll be ready too." Her father looked at her, surprised by her determination. He nodded. "Yes, we will." Max let out a quiet woof, as if in agreement. 3 nights later, the house was silent. Too silent. Emily lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. Sleep wouldn't come. Every little noise made her heart pound. Outside, a black SUV sat parked across the street. It was the undercover police detail, watching over them. Max lay beside her, his head resting on his paws, but his eyes were open. He was waiting, watching. Then, suddenly, Max's ears twitched. His head lifted. Emily held her breath. A soft click echoed from downstairs. Someone was inside. Max growled lowly. Emily sat up slowly, her hands trembling. She reached for her phone, but before she could dial, she heard her father's voice whisper from the hallway. "Emily, stay in your room." She froze. Footsteps. More than one person. The front door hadn't been forced open. That meant only one thing. A cop had let them in. Her father had suspected there was a mole in the department. Now he knew for sure. Emily swallowed her fear. She grabbed Max's collar, holding him back. "Not yet," she whispered. Max stayed still, waiting for the command. Downstairs, voices murmured. Then, crash. Gunfire erupted. Max tensed, his body coiled like a spring. Emily's door burst open. A man stood there, dressed in black, a gun in his hand. His eyes locked onto her. Emily didn't hesitate. She pointed at him and screamed, "Max! Attack!" Max exploded into action. The golden retriever leapt, his powerful jaws clamping down on the man's arm. The intruder howled, stumbling back. Emily ran. Her father was already in the fight. Two men lay on the ground, one groaning, the other unconscious. Another attacker was aiming a gun.
Bang!
A shot rang out. The man dropped his weapon, screaming in pain. Harris had arrived, his own gun smoking. "Stay down." Max dragged the last intruder to the ground, his teeth sinking into his leg. The man screamed, begging for mercy. Within minutes, it was over. The police swarmed in, arresting the surviving attackers. Scarface was among them. His smirk was gone now. He was panting, his arm bleeding where Max had bitten him. Emily's father knelt beside him. "Game over." Scarface spat blood. "You think this ends with me? You have no idea who you're messing with." Emily stepped forward, Max by her side. She looked Scarface in the eyes and said, "Neither do you." Max growled, baring his teeth. For the first time, Scarface looked afraid. Harris sighed. "We need to put an end to this. Once and for all." Emily's father nodded. "Then let's finish it." The house was still buzzing with police officers as they processed the scene. The attackers had been subdued, but their words lingered like a dark cloud over the family. Scarface's warning replayed in Emily's mind. "You have no idea who you're messing with." Emily sat on the couch, Max curled beside her. His fur was slightly damp with sweat from the intense fight, but he showed no signs of slowing down. If anything, he looked more alert, his golden eyes flicking toward every movement in the house. Her father, Officer Carter, paced the living room, deep in conversation with Sergeant Harris. "This is bigger than just a revenge attack," her father muttered. "They had inside help. Someone in the department gave them access to my home." Harris nodded. "We're already looking into it. I've contacted Internal Affairs. We'll find them all." Emily's mother, sitting across the room, wrapped her arms around herself. "We can't live like this. We can't keep waiting for the next attack." Her father stopped pacing. His eyes darkened with determination. "Then we take the fight to them." Harris looked at him, surprised. "You want to go after them?" "We don't have a choice," Carter replied. "If we don't stop them now, they'll keep coming." Emily watched her father closely. He was no longer just a police officer protecting his family. He was a man preparing for war. Harris sighed. "You realize what you're suggesting, right? This isn't just some gang. This is a full-scale criminal syndicate. If we go after them, we have to be ready to take them all down." Emily's father nodded. "Then let's do it." Harris ran a hand down his face. "All right. We need a plan." Emily leaned forward. "Max, and I want to help." Her father looked at her, startled. "Emily, this isn't—" "No, Dad," she interrupted. "They came after me. They threatened our family. I won't just sit here and wait for them to come back." Her mother started to protest, but Harris held up a hand. Actually, she might have a point. Both parents turned to him in shock. "Think about it," Harris continued. The syndicate already sees Emily as a target. They know she's important to you. If we use that to our advantage, we can set a trap. Carter frowned. Absolutely not. I won't put my daughter in danger. Emily sat up straighter. I can do this, Dad. Max is with me. He's saved me before, and he'll do it again. Max let out a quiet woof, as if agreeing. Her father hesitated. Then, after a long moment, he sighed. If we do this, we do it my way. No risks. No unnecessary dangers. Emily nodded. Agreed. Harris cracked his knuckles. All right then, let's take these bastards down. The setup. The plan was simple, but dangerous. The police would spread false information that Emily and her family were being relocated to a safe house outside the city. They knew the syndicate had eyes and ears everywhere, and they counted on that information reaching them. In reality, Emily, Max, and her father would be staying in an abandoned police training facility, a place with multiple exits, reinforced walls, and surveillance cameras covering every angle. A SWAT team would be stationed nearby, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. As the sun set, Emily sat in the dimly lit room, her nerves on edge. She wore a hoodie and jeans, trying to look as normal as possible. Max sat beside her, his ears perked. Her father checked his weapon. They'll come. Be ready. Emily swallowed. I am. Then, at exactly midnight, the sound of motorcycles rumbled in the distance. They were here. The ambush. The moment the bikers arrived, the air became thick with tension. Their headlights cut through the darkness, illuminating the abandoned facility's courtyard. The leader, Carlos Santiago himself, stepped off his bike, a cruel smile on his face. He raised a megaphone. Officer Carter, we know you're in there. Come out, and we'll make this quick. Emily's father muttered under his breath. Not a chance. Harris's voice came through the earpiece. Hold your position. Wait for my signal. Emily peeked through a small crack in the boarded-up window. The bikers were armed. Shotguns, pistols, even a few knives. They weren't here to negotiate. They were here to kill. Carlos paced. You see, Officer Carter, you made a big mistake. You should have taken our offer and left town. But instead, you chose to fight. And now. He spread his arms. Now you and your family will die. Max growled lowly. Emily whispered, Not today. Carlos snapped his fingers. Burn it down. One of the bikers pulled out a Molotov cocktail, lighting the rag with a flick of his lighter. Harris's voice crackled in the earpiece. Now. The night exploded into action. Snipers took out the bikers with precision shots, forcing the others to scatter. The SWAT team stormed in from the shadows, weapons raised, taking down the syndicate's men one by one. Carlos cursed, grabbing his gun. Max lunged. The golden retriever moved like lightning, his jaws clamping down on Carlos's wrist. The man screamed, dropping his weapon. Emily rushed forward, adrenaline pumping. She grabbed the fallen gun and pointed it at Carlos. It's over. Carlos gritted his teeth, clutching his injured wrist. You think this ends with me? He spat. You have no idea how deep this goes. Her father approached, gun drawn. We'll find out soon enough. Within minutes, the rest of the gang was either dead or in custody. The battle was over. The aftermath. By dawn, Emily sat on the steps of the training facility, exhausted. Max rested his head on her lap, his tail wagging slightly. Her father sat beside her. You did good, kid. She looked at him. Is it really over? He exhaled. For now. But people like Carlos? They're part of something bigger. We cut off one head, but there are always more. Emily nodded. She wasn't the same girl she had been before all this started. She was stronger now. And she wasn't afraid anymore. Max licked her hand, sensing her thoughts. She smiled, scratching behind his ears. We'll be ready, she said. Her father smiled. Yes, we will. And as the sun rose, bathing the city in golden light, Emily knew one thing for sure. No matter what came next, she and Max would face it together. The end. Or is it? The battle was over, but the war was just beginning. Emily sat on the back porch of their newly secured home, staring at the early morning sky. The fight against Carlos Santiago and his men had been brutal, but they had won. Or at least they thought they had. Max lay beside her, his golden fur still rough from the night's fight, but his eyes were sharp and alert. He wasn't relaxing. He knew, just as she did, that something was still off. Her father walked outside, a cup of coffee in his hand. He looked exhausted, his face lined with worry. "You should be resting." Emily shook her head. "I can't. I don't think it's over." Her father sighed, taking a slow sip. "Neither do I." Before Emily could respond, Harris's black SUV pulled up to their driveway. He stepped out, his expression dark. "We need to talk." They all gathered inside, Emily, her parents, and Harris. The tension in the room was thick as the sergeant dropped a folder on the table. "These aren't just random criminals," he said, opening the folder. Inside were photographs, documents, and surveillance images of men Emily had never seen before. Carlos Santiago wasn't even the real leader of this operation. He was a lieutenant. The real mastermind is someone else. Emily's father frowned. "Who?" Harris flipped through the pages before stopping at a grainy image of a tall man in a suit, standing next to Carlos. His face was shadowed, but his presence was menacing. "We only know him by one name, Viper." Emily felt a chill run down her spine. Her father clenched his jaw. "What do we know about him?" "Not much," Harris admitted. "He runs the syndicate from the shadows. No one has ever seen his face clearly. But one thing is certain, Carlos Santiago was small time compared to him." Emily's mother's voice trembled. "What does he want?" Harris exhaled. "Revenge." A silence fell over the room. Emily's father rubbed his temples. "So, what's the next move?" Harris leaned forward. "We go after him. But we need to be smart. This guy has money, power, and connections. We're talking corrupt politicians, dirty cops, and an army of enforcers at his disposal. If we're going to take him down, we need to hit where it hurts." Emily glanced at the file, feeling a growing determination inside her. "How do we find him?"